What happened when your neighbor called 911 but the cops just laughed? So I'm standing on my front lawn holding a turkey baster while 15 SWAT officers aim assault rifles at my face. My neighbor Hector is behind a squad car screaming that I'm running a criminal enterprise that needs to be neutralized immediately. The SWAT commander is looking at me through his tactical gear, then at Hector, then back at me, trying to process how someone in a gravy-stained apron became a high priority target. Behind them, 30 regular cops have the whole street blocked off like we're filming the next Die Hard movie. I can smell my turkey getting dry through the open door and hear Grandma inside yelling at the lions fumbling again. It's a SWAT team versus my Thanksgiving dinner. This insanity started because I decided to host Thanksgiving for the first time. My mom died last spring and nobody wanted to deal with the holidays, so I stepped up. I invited my 3 brothers and their families, Dad, Grandma, my aunt from Detroit, and my cousin Dean who just got out of the Marines. Dean brought 3 Marine buddies who had nowhere else to go for the holiday. 17 people came in total. Everyone showed up around noon, parking all over our narrow street. Kids were throwing a football in the backyard. Adults were arguing about whether the Cowboys would choke again, and Grandma was telling everyone they were too skinny. It was loud, sure, but it was Thanksgiving loud, not criminal enterprise loud. We were just a big Filipino-American family trying to keep traditions alive after a rough year. The problem was my neighbor, Hector. This is the same guy who measures his grass with a ruler and once called the cops on a Girl Scout for aggressive cookie-selling tactics. When he saw Dean and his Marine buddies get out of a truck, 4 built guys with military haircuts carrying aluminum pans of food, something in Hector's brain just snapped. He watched from his window as more cars arrived, heard kids screaming in the backyard, saw my aunt hauling in her massive cooler, and instead of walking over like a normal human to ask what was happening, he called 911. Hector told dispatch I had at least 100 weapons in my house, said gang members were assembling for something big. He even reported aggressive shouting and suspicious packages being stockpiled, which were literally just pans of lumpia and a cooler full of sodas. By the time Hector finished his fantasy novel to the 911 operator, he'd painted my house as some kind of cartel compound preparing for war. The dispatcher, not taking any chances with a potential criminal scenario, sent everyone. SWAT rolled up like they were raiding El Chapo while we were inside debating whether marshmallows belong on sweet potatoes. When they arrived, Hector ran out, frantically pointing at my house. "That's the house! They're armed and dangerous! You need to strike now before the gang members escape," he screamed at the SWAT commander. I saw him threatening people with a weapon through the window. He was waving it around like a maniac. What he'd actually seen was me carving the turkey. But this man was committed to his delusion, standing there in his pressed khakis, acting like he'd just uncovered a terrorist cell instead of a family dinner. After the SWAT commander was done telling me to get on the ground and finally asked for an explanation, I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I'd been taking all day. There was Dad carving turkey in the same apron I was wearing. My 7-year-old niece was making hand turkeys at the kids' table with cartoon tablecloths. Dean and his Marine were buddies in the matching Grateful and Blessed t-shirts my aunt forced on everyone, playing Jenga with my nephew. The suspicious packages Hector reported, a photo of Grandma carrying her famous ube pie, the aggressive shouting, a video of everyone screaming at a touchdown. I showed him my grocery receipt for $400 worth of Thanksgiving food, 3 days of shopping. The commander lowered his rifle, pulled off his helmet, and just stared at Hector. "Sir," he said to me, "are those Marines in there?" I nodded. "They served 3 tours in Afghanistan. They're here because they don't have family nearby." The commander's face went from confusion to something between embarrassment and anger. The entire SWAT team just started laughing. One officer actually asked, "Is that turkey I smell?" My grandma, who'd hobbled outside despite everyone telling her to stay put, shouted, "You boys hungry?" I made 2. The commander walked over to Hector, who was still ranting about gang activity, and said in the calmest voice I've ever heard, "Sir, you called in a federal response for a Thanksgiving dinner. You've wasted thousands in taxpayer dollars and risked innocent lives because you don't like cars parked on your street." Then he arrested Hector for false reporting and abuse of emergency services and told me, "Happy Thanksgiving, sir. Sorry about your lawn."